Every religion in history promised its followers a future. The Norse gods promised theirs an ending. They knew the date, they knew who would kill them, they knew they would lose, and they showed up anyway. So here's the question I can't let go of. If you were told, flatly, as fact, that everything you built was going to burn, would you keep building it? Because for about 300 years, an entire corner of Europe answered yes. We tend to imagine collapse arriving loudly. Fire, wolves, a sky cracking open. That's how the Norse imagined it too. They called it Ragnarök, the fate of the gods. A prophecy so specific it reads like a battle plan. Which god dies, who kills them, in what order? And it never happened. Norse religion did collapse, completely. Within roughly 2 centuries it went from the organizing belief of an entire region to something nobody practiced in the open. But it didn't end in fire. It ended in paperwork, a trade agreement, a royal marriage, and, in one case I still can't quite believe, a vote. This is the thing I keep finding in every collapse story I look at. Rome, 1929, 2008. People rehearse for the dramatic ending, and then the real one walks in wearing a suit, holding a better offer. Let's start with what they actually believed was coming. And I want to be careful here, because almost everything I'm about to describe survives in just 2 books, and we'll get to why that matters more than anything else in this video. The prophecy is called the Völuspá, the seeress's prophecy. A dead woman is summoned to speak, and she describes the end of the world in the past tense, like it's already finished. It goes like this. First, the world breaks socially. Brothers kill brothers. Oaths stop meaning anything. She calls it an axe age, a sword age, the collapse of trust before the collapse of anything physical. Then comes Fimbulwinter, 3 winters with no summer between them. Then the bindings fail. The wolf Fenrir breaks his chain. The serpent Jormungandr rises out of the sea. A ship built from the untrimmed fingernails of the dead sails out of the east, and yes, that is a real detail. It's called Naglfar. And then the part that fascinates me. Odin, the chief god, the one who traded an eye for knowledge, who hung himself from a tree for 9 nights to learn the runes. Odin knows exactly how this ends. He knows Fenrir kills him. His entire operation, collecting slain warriors, filling Valhalla, training an army for centuries, is preparation for a battle the prophecy already says he loses. Thor kills the world serpent, walks 9 steps, and drops dead from its venom. Heimdall and Loki kill each other. The fire giant Surtur burns what's left. That's the ending they carried around with them. Not, be good and you'll be saved. Not, the faithful will be spared. Just, it ends, we lose, be there anyway. So why would anyone sign up for that? This is where I think most retellings get it backwards, because they treat Norse religion like a religion in the modern sense. A set of claims you agree with, a thing you believe in. It wasn't. There's a linguistic detail here that reframes the whole story. When Scandinavians eventually did convert, the sources don't describe it as swapping one faith for another. They describe forn seed being replaced by siðr seed. Old custom, new custom. Siðr means custom, practice. The way things are done around here. There was no scripture, no creed to recite, no priesthood in the organized sense. The local chieftain, the Guai, ran the sacrifices as part of running the district. No central authority anywhere that could rule on what was true, which means Ragnarök was never a doctrine you had to accept. It was a story you inherited, the way you inherited a farm and a feud. And that changes what the fatalism is doing. If the ending is fixed, then the only variable left is how you conduct yourself on the way there. You can't win. You can only be worth watching. That's not despair. That's an incredibly efficient way to build a warrior culture, and a genuinely useful psychology if you live somewhere that can kill you with weather. But it came with a structural weakness that nobody could see at the time. A religion with no book, no clergy, no central authority, and no mechanism for converting outsiders is a religion with no immune system. It had never needed one. It had never competed. Then something showed up that had spent 1,000 years doing nothing but compete. Here's how it really fell. not in one night, in deals. Christianity didn't arrive in Scandinavia as a better answer to death. It arrived as a better business network. Attached to it, written law, Latin literacy, access to European markets, recognition from other kings, marriage alliances with dynasties that would not marry pagans. If you were a Scandinavian ruler in the 10th century trying to consolidate power, conversion wasn't a spiritual decision. It was infrastructure. Denmark goes first. Around 965, King Harald Bluetooth, yes, that Bluetooth, the wireless standard is named after him, raises a stone at Jelling with an inscription taking credit for it. Roughly, made the Danes Christian. Note the grammar. Not the Danes became Christian, he made them. Top down. A policy, announced. Norway is uglier. Two kings named Olaf Tryggvason and later Olaf Haraldsson, push conversion through with pressure, and by the saga's own account, with violence. Though I'll be straight with you, those sagas were written 2 centuries later by Christian authors with a saint to promote, so treat the details as literature carrying history, not as a police report. And then there's Iceland, which does something I find genuinely astonishing. Around the year 1000, Iceland is tearing itself in half. Christian faction, pagan faction, both armed, both at the annual assembly, the Alþingi. This is a society with no king and no army. A civil war here isn't survivable, so they do something no other country does. They hand the decision to one man and agree in advance to accept it. The law speaker is Thorgir, and Thorgir is a pagan priest. He lies down, pulls his cloak over his head, and stays there, silent, for a day and a night. Then he gets up and rules that all Icelanders will be baptized. With a compromise, certain old practices stay legal in private, for a while. A pagan priest voluntarily ends his own religion. By procedure, to avoid a war. That is the collapse. Not Fenrir, a committee. Sweden holds out longest. At Gamla Uppsala there was a great temple, or at least a great something. Our main description comes from a German cleric, Adam of Bremen, writing in the 1070s about a place he never visited, describing 9-day sacrifices and bodies hanging in a sacred grove. I want to flag that honestly many historians read that account as propaganda, a hostile writer describing a rival faith to an audience that wanted to be horrified. The archaeology at Uppsala shows a monumental hall complex. It does not confirm the grove, but the political story is clear enough. Late in the 11th century, a Swedish king refuses to perform the old sacrifices and is driven out for it. He comes back, he wins, and the temple ground ends up under a church. There's no final battle, no last stand at the edge of the world. The old custom just stops being the thing you do, first at court, then in the law, then in the field. 2, 3 generations, grandparents sacrificing, grandchildren baptized, a prophecy that promised a wolf swallowing the sun, and it went out like a habit nobody kept up. Now here's the part that reframes everything, and it's why I said to hold on to those 2 books. Everything you have ever read about Ragnarök, every detail I just told you, comes almost entirely from 2 Icelandic manuscripts. The Poetic Edda, in a manuscript from around 1270, and the Prose Edda, written around 1220 by Snorri Sturluson. Iceland, converted around the year 1000, which means both books were written more than 2 centuries after the religion they describe had officially ended, by Christians. Snorri was a Christian chieftain, lawyer, and politician, writing partly as a manual so poets could still understand the old imagery. The mythology of the Norse gods survives almost exclusively in the handwriting of the people who replaced them. And it goes further. The Völuspá doesn't end at the fire. After everything burns, the earth rises again, green. The surviving gods return. Balder comes back from the dead. 2 humans, hidden through the destruction, repopulate the world. In one manuscript version, there's a stanza about a mighty one arriving from above to rule over all. Scholars have argued about that ending for over a century. Some read it as authentically Norse. Others read Christian fingerprints all over it. Resurrection, a renewed world, a returning ruler. We may never resolve it, but sit with what that means. It's possible that the most famous apocalypse in Norse mythology has an ending that was quietly edited by the religion that ended it. The gods who knew they'd die didn't get to write the last page. So the lesson I take out of this one isn't about gods. It's that every system that dies has usually spent years rehearsing the wrong death. Rome rehearsed barbarians. 1929 rehearsed a correction. The Norse rehearsed a wolf. And the real ending is almost always quieter, more reasonable, and signed by someone on the inside. Next time on this channel, an empire that collapsed because it got too good at winning. I'm Snaky. Stay suspicious.